Am I on? I guess I'm on. Am I not? Okay. Well, welcome. Welcome this evening. And I just want you to know, Jesus started with 12, and look where it got him. So we're glad that this wonderful remnant has come tonight and allowed yourselves the opportunity to share in what I believe is a most important connection that we don't often make. And we as a La Salette parish, we're a parish that's staffed by the missionaries of La Salette, for Brian and for Leonard to know this, that our foundation is on the apparition of Mary in 1846 to two young shepherd children on the top of a gorgeous mountain area in which she made connections between what we would call today ecological sin and the consequences to our common home. She didn't use that language, but in her message, she brought that out, that when there is ecological conversion, and not just physical ecological conversion, but spiritual ecological conversion, mental and moral ecological conversion, then creation is capable of doing all that God created it to be able to do. So that is an important connection, I think, we can bring to you in terms of who we are, and that you can also bring to us how that has very practical ramifications in the way we live our personal, our families, and our family of faith life. And unabashedly, I'm going to share simply with you that 6 years ago, when Laudato Si came out, I was up at Catholic Theological Union with our students up there, and they had a symposium and asked all the religious communities that were willing to do it to bring something from their community to share in the discussions on connecting Laudato Si with our religious life. And I wrote an article called La Salette and Laudato Si, which connects both the message of Mary, the ambiance of the apparition, the context of the calling, and the theological understanding of the conversion that's necessary for us to hear the cry of our common home, to reconcile ourselves to the needs of the earth on which we live that does not flourish as well as it could if we are not together with it. So I'll put this out on the website. We'll figure out a way to get it and let it be known that it's out there, and I'd invite you to read that along with what excellent resources you're going to get this evening. So I would like to invite Brian and Leonard, both from the Archdiocese of Atlanta. I believe Brian is the sustainability coordinator. He'll explain a little bit more what that means for the Archdiocese, and Leonard is the program coordinator for the action plan of Laudato Si that the Archdiocese put out. So I welcome you this evening. I thank you for coming, and we look forward to your insights and sharing.
Thank you. I'll pass the mic here. Good evening. We doing okay on the mic? Excellent. Perfect. My name is Brian Sevois. I'm a parishioner at St. Jude. I've been involved with the Archdiocese now related to Laudato Si for really about 6 years now. Leonard will introduce himself when he comes up, but we are co-sustainability coordinators in the Archdiocese. We both work about half-time or a little bit more sometime, sharing our different kinds of expertise and knowledge, but certainly a shared passion for this work. Father Ray, thank you for having us here, and Stephanie and Dawn for all your help. It's great to be at the Catholic Church of St. Anne again. I'll tell you that I was here a few years ago for your Life Team Mass, and it was an amazing experience. It was just fantastic. And so when I was invited with Leonard to come here, I thought this is going to be great because this parish has a lot going on. We're here to talk about Laudato Si among friends, really. That's why you're here. No one made you come. And the thought I would put out to you just to get things going is, what if the Pope wrote you a letter? Would you read it? What if it was a 246-paragraph letter? Would you read it? Well, he did. And I invite you to read it if you haven't. Take it in some pieces. But what we're going to do here tonight is share a little bit about what Pope Francis says in this encyclical and what he asks of us. We're going to talk about, Leonard especially, the Laudato Si action plan, which was created here in Atlanta. It was the first one in the country, and it's been shared around the country, around the world, and others have used that as a template to build their own. We're going to talk about what people are doing in the Archdiocese around the topic of Laudato Si and all of its aspects, and we have some specific examples for you. And all of this really would be the lead into what y'all may choose to do over time as you engage in this and re-engage in it, pick up where you are. You've already done a lot already. So let's just talk a little bit about some basics. 2015 in May, personal note, May 24th, my wife's birthday, Laudato Si came out. 184 pages is the book you have a chance to get later. It's a plea to all humans, not just Catholics, to everyone, every religion, not religious, etc. It's an appeal to poor people, rich people, industrialists, and poets. It reflects on the Church's history of environmental protection, frankly, all the way back to the beginning. And there are many instances of different popes and such writing about it, Benedict and John Paul and many others. But mainly what's new about this is it's your pope, my pope, our pope, talking about consumptive lifestyles and how it's impacting the poor and the earth. And he's a trained chemist, among other things, and so he might know a little bit about some connections between things and maybe takes a systematic approach to looking at problems. And so one line right out of the encyclical is, all of us can cooperate as instruments of God for the care of creation. He's just asking for a little cooperation in this 246-paragraph letter. Why did he write Laudato Si? Again, one quote right out of it that I think about a lot. You know, this is our Pope writing to everyone in the world, boldly saying, the earth, our home, is beginning to look more and more like an immense pile of filth. That's terrible. I mean, it's good in a way that he's saying wake up, and certainly not all of our world looks like a pile of filth. Marietta, Georgia is a beautiful place. Sandy Springs, Georgia is a beautiful place. North Georgia is a beautiful place. But he sees things maybe a little differently than we do, and I'll go through some examples of that. Why should we listen to him? Two answers. He's a Holy Father, and he's considered not only by Catholics but others as a global moral authority. Many, many people look to him, and why shouldn't we? And lastly, why is the Church involved in this? In effect, because everything is connected. You know, we are connected to the earth. Our faith is connected to creation. Creation is connected to the people who live in it. So it just kind of makes sense in a way, and I can't say it any differently than that. And the encyclical talks about environmental, economic, and social things being connected, and that's why the Church is in this. So what does Pope Francis say? And I've tried to simplify it into sort of six sort of steps. First, he says, take a look. Observe creation and its current condition. Observe how we live. Ponder that. Discern on that. Pray on that. Immerse yourself on that. See what comes to you in some quiet time. Take the quiet time to do that. If you feel called and the need, seek some kind of conversion to become more active in this space. It may not be your calling, but for those who discern that way, it may very well be. Know that there is help, and I'll go into lots of different kinds of help that's around. You're not alone in this. And then lead and act, but with love. Don't make this a battle. Do it with love and you'll find the path is smooth. So some of the pictures you'll see tonight, they're my personal pictures of places I've been. I have traveled a lot in my life and with my family. We often go on some pretty crazy trips. But this one is close to home. This is near Amicalola Falls, the Lenfoot Lodge. It's the hike up to the hike in. Right on the trail, it's beautiful moss and mushrooms. Through the greatness and beauty of creatures, one comes to know by analogy their maker. Look around, look at the little things. We were not meant to be inundated by cement and asphalt and metal. I live in Sandy Springs. I've seen a bit too much of that lately. Won't talk about East Cobb City Hood, not going there. Let's look around some more. He said to observe, right? I was born and raised in Louisiana, a block from the Mississippi River. Each year, hundreds of millions of tons of waste are generated, much of it non-biodegradable, highly toxic, and radioactive. Oh, by the way, EPA says cancer risk is highest in an area known as Cancer Alley, 84-mile-long stretch along the Mississippi River above New Orleans, home to 150 chemical plants. Of the 10 census tracts in the nation with the highest cancer rates, 7 are in this 84-mile-long place. I think this is what the Pope sees when he talks about filth. He's not talking about our beautiful parks. He's talking about 84 miles, practically, of 150 chemical plants. Don't feel too sorry for Louisiana. Look around in Georgia. Did you know there's a titanium mine proposed right next to the Okefenokee Swamp? Georgia Power has coal ash in unlined ponds very close to the Chattahoochee and other waterways. We've had 5 extreme droughts in part of Georgia since 2000. Did you know, and this is hard to track, but see, I'm a hurricane guy being from Louisiana, that the first 2 tropical storm warnings in Atlanta's history ever were in the last 5 years. We've never had a tropical storm warning in Atlanta until Irma in 2017, and then Zeta again in 2020. It just hasn't happened before, at least when weather's been recorded. At Fort Pulaski in Savannah, sea levels are up. So over a long time, 90 years, but up 9 inches, not 9 inches in, 9 inches up. So 3/4 of a foot, the sea has risen at Fort Pulaski for various reasons. So it's around in Georgia too. It's not just the Mississippi River in Louisiana. There are things around here we should be concerned about. How about observing how we live? And I won't read all of these, but the Pope is saying, again, he feels we've hurt and mistreated at least part of our earth and the people in it. He mentions in the middle that our common home is falling into serious disrepair and may be reaching a breaking point because of the pace of change, including large-scale natural disasters and social and financial crises. I can think of a few of those. The news does get better, but just hang with me. He talks about a rebellion on the part of nature, that if we go far enough, the earth will win and the people will lose, is really what he's saying. The earth will survive. So this may be about save the humans, not save the earth. Let's look at some of our behaviors, and this is not to pick on anyone, it's just how we live in the U.S. 1 to 3% of 100 billion plastic bags get recycled. 100 billion plastic bags, 1 to 3% are recycled. Our water use versus everyone else in the world, we're second in the world. Forget who the first one is. United Arab Emirates, living in the desert. So we're second in the world per capita on water use. We have some opportunity there. Energy use, we're 10th in the world, so not quite so high, but I think we have some opportunities there. I had a front row seat to the BP oil disaster in the Gulf. I was actually working in Houston at a BP office the day this happened. I was sitting around a table with a group of drilling engineers who were responsible for this. And so I continued to work with them in my consulting role, not related to drilling, But I learned a lot of things, and I kept eyes on this. I saw this from up close. What does the Pope say? Our immense technological development has not been accompanied by a development in human responsibility, values, and conscience. And what I can tell you, and this is all public knowledge, 210 million gallons of oil into the Gulf, 1.4 million gallons of chemical dispersant, 55 miles of the Louisiana-Mississippi coast soiled, 4.9 million pounds of oiled waste collected, 10,000 people, more than 10,000 people involved in the cleanup, thousands of boats and airplanes, $65 billion in penalties to BP and its partners in this, 10 people killed, and environmental problems and dolphins, fish, and other things for at least 5 years beyond this spill. Now, you and I don't work for BP. I'm not totally against oil and gas, don't get me wrong, But I think what happened here was, it's exactly what the Pope said. What they were convicted of was irresponsible and reckless behavior. They depended on their technology and believed in themselves and their technology too much. I came to find out later that no other oil company in the world would have taken on this well because it was too radical, too dangerous, but BP took it on. So when I read the Pope's words and I think about observing and learning and thinking and connecting, I directly connect this result to that kind of thinking. It's obvious to me, there's no question. And I knew some of the people involved. Didn't do it on purpose. Many of them were Boy Scout leaders and community leaders, good people, but the trust in the technology went too far. Some other concerns, hurricanes. Plenty of them. We're not going to replow Katrina here. Katrina's sort of old news in a way, but a very severe thing. And it's easy to put it back into 2005 and say, New Orleans, Gulf Coast, Katrina, that happened, there it was. Well, New Orleans wasn't the only part of the story, so just to make things a little more real, this is a little town I know where my grandmother grew up in Mississippi called Waveland, Mississippi. This is St. Clair Church, where one of my aunts was baptized. This is a year before Katrina. This is a month after Katrina. Did you see the difference? Church? No church. This is not New Orleans. This is 70 miles east of New Orleans. So when we hear about these storms, and the Pope talks about more serious storms and such, it has long-term impacts. It's not just the inconvenience of the day. New Orleans did not have traffic lights working for over a year in the entire city. Imagine trying to get your kid to school in Atlanta with no traffic lights and you're driving 15 miles. Those are the kind of things, the long-term effects that go on after these storms. It isn't just one and done. Long story short, Katrina was not an anomaly. If you look at other years, even if you just look at the last 2 years, another record broken. Back-to-back Category 4 hurricanes hit the Louisiana coast. Never happened before. It's sort of like the tropical storms warnings coming to Atlanta. Louisiana's never had 2 Category 4 storms hit back-to-back years. Also, just for the U.S., there were twice the normal number, the average number of hurricanes last year. Now, that varies a bit, but pairing that with breaking that new ground, if you will, in Louisiana, people there can barely get their roofs fixed before the next one comes in. It's not normal. It's not normal. And I've lived with this for 60 years now. I only have 60 years of knowledge of this, but the frequency of these things is not normal. So let's ponder and discern. Pope says we're tempted to think, in effect, that the problem will go away, that things don't look that bad, looks beautiful here. But what he says is, think about human nature. It's sort of what we do. Trying not to see the problem, maybe thinking it's not quite so bad, maybe thinking it'll solve itself. He's saying this kind of problem will not just solve itself. We need to act. Just continue to inform yourself and be more action-oriented. Look at the news and look at it with this eye. What's going on in the environment around North America or around the world? Just kind of search the web sometime. This view happens to be from 2017. From the Great Barrier Reef to British Columbia, Canada, having its worst fire season ever. Georgia, 100,000 acres burned in South Georgia that same year. Fort McMurray in Canada, where the oil sands are being mined, had a fire for 15 months. 15 months burning. LA had big fires that year. That was the year Puerto Rico got hit really badly by Maria and quote unquote set back 20 years. So from Canada to Australia to Puerto Rico, it's around. And the spoiler alert here is 2016, the year before this, was about the same, and 2018, the year after, the headlines read the same. So the Pope says things are happening, watch for nature rebelling. My own opinion is I think we're seeing some of that now, and it's out there. Maybe there's so much of it we don't recognize it, but I believe it's there. So he encourages us to seek an eco-conversion. And I like to think of this as immersing yourself in something that you're familiar with. Maybe it's a place you walk. Maybe it's your backyard. Maybe it's a favorite park. For me, these little pictures are places I've been. Nicaragua, the Florida Keys, as I mentioned, the hike before, my backyard with St. Francis, British Columbia, where some of my family lives, the coastal picture, and then the Mississippi coast with the sand. Think of an eco-conversion as just immersing yourself in nature for a while and just pondering that for a while, and that may bring some thoughts to you. And I know as you read Laudato Si, and you perhaps think about things close to you and look a little more closely at things that are right in your face sometimes, you may find that there's an awakening in you given some of this other information. The other thing I would encourage you guys as your church and parish to do is to realize there is lots of help around. The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He doesn't grow faint or weary. He strengthens the powerless. So we have God on our side in this. The Holy Spirit can be said to possess an infinite creativity, which knows how to loosen the knots of human affairs. Everyone's talents and involvements are needed, and each according to his or her own abilities, culture, experience, etc. So what I feel in this work, however, wherever you may be on the path in this is, God's with us, the Holy Spirit is with us, and there are lots of people willing to help right here and beyond your parish. So don't be shy. Really think about what this may mean to you, and if you choose to move forward on it, know that there is lots of help around. Lastly, the Pope encourages us to lead and act with love. And the lead part is the one I want to really focus on. He says, at least in some areas, some topics, that we still lack the culture to confront the crisis. He also mentioned, this is your Pope speaking, avoid the use of plastic. He means single use mostly, I think, but avoid the use of plastic and paper. Reduce water consumption. This is in the letter the Pope wrote to you. Use public transport, plant more trees, turn off unnecessary lights, the simplest little things we can do each day. That's what he's asking us to do as a starting point. So it's 246 paragraphs, say a lot of things that are really important, but for our daily lives, he's actually suggesting just some small changes in our life, many of which maybe we're doing already. Maybe there's a few more we can add to the list. So he's not asking a lot from us individually. I want to switch over now, kind of a whole separate topic now, and Leonard and I will tag team a bit for the rest of the time. He's going to talk about the Laudato Si Action Plan, which is Atlanta's response to the Pope's encyclical. And Leonard is an expert in this field.
Can you hear me? A lot of times I don't need a microphone. Anyway, my name is Leonard Robinson, and I'm the other coordinator for Laudato Si for the Archdiocese of Atlanta. I'm a California transplant. I moved out here 6 years ago. I was getting ready to retire. My daughter said, "Why don't you come out to Atlanta?" And I'd never lived in the South before. And I said, "Oh, I'll come out for a couple of weeks." That was 6 years ago. Kind of fell in love with the place. thought I was going to retire, and that lasted about 6 months, and got engaged. I worship at St. Thomas the Apostle over in Smyrna, and got engaged with the Archdiocese. My entire career, 45 years plus, had been in environmental. I worked for private, public, government, nonprofit. My parents always taught me, leave your room in better condition than it was when you arrived. So I decided to make the environment, my community, the world, my room, and bigger than a room, a ministry. So this, as Brian alluded, this action plan, this is our way of telling Pope Francis, we got your letter, and this is our response. So we hit the reply button, and we came up with an action plan. Now, background, a group met with Archbishop Wilton Gregory when he was the Archbishop for Atlanta. And then the Vatican in June of 2015 released Laudato Si. In June 2015, a group of professors were brought together to develop the action plan. And in April of 2016, the action plan was a kickoff at the University of Georgia. That's where we were yesterday. They were kind of celebrating the release of the action plan because we just revised it. These are the people for the original, the action plan team. 3 Catholic, 3 non-Catholics, because the environment, you know, people, planet, prosperity, which are the 3 balances of the sustainability, don't really care about your religion or your political affiliation. We all breathe the same air, water, the same people all the time. But we decided, okay, 3 Catholics, 3 non-Catholics. Nobody's perfect, right? And so these were our champions. They heard the Pope, and they took Laudato Si action plan and distilled it into something that the Archdiocese of Atlanta can do, or that, you know, not just the Archdiocese, but anybody in Georgia can do. We even have some churches, non-Catholic churches, that have adopted the action, you know, this action plan because it's practical things. It tells you things you can do as a parish, individually, and at home. And it's really, really simple. You know, a lot of people think we've got to do all this to change the world. No, everybody has a gift. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. So, you know, dig down. What is your gift? But these are the original champions, and they wrote what I like to call the Old Testament of the action plan. Well, we went from 2016 to 2021, and a group of us got together, and that's kind of like the time, maybe a year, Brian and I had come aboard, and we decided we need to update this. We need to not only update it, but we need to put it online because things change just like that. As soon as you print something up, it becomes history. And we want this to be organic. We want this to be relevant, to be current. So we updated it. We got 23 people, 23 content experts on Laudato Si in different topics, herding everybody together. You know, it's like being in a room, a virtual room full of geniuses, and everybody put in their part. And we said, this is the goal. This is what we want to do. But we have to make it where people can do it. We don't want to put it in science speak. I'm an engineer. Or actually, I'm a recovering engineer, so I can, if it can be done in 5 words or 500 words, I'm obligated to 500 words. But we wanted everyday people to be able to make that difference, make that change with this. So look at this action plan as a roadmap for sustainability for the Archdiocese and beyond. This is the first group. This is 2 pages of all the people that participated from different groups, from government, from nonprofits, from private businesses and everything. They all got together, one heart, you know, different locations. We had people all over the country. We have yet to be in the same room together because we were doing everything virtually. The pandemic taught us that. Okay, this is the other part of the group. You can't get it all on one page, but we have doctors, we have professors, again, planners, consultants, everyday people, because again, everybody had a gift to give, and everybody had an opinion. And our job, Brian's job and my job, was to keep everybody focused. Okay, this is the North Star. This is where we want to go, because again, people, we can get differences of opinion and we can get distracted. So our job was to keep these experts focused, and we did it. We did it. And the cool thing is, I'm going to go over it, but what I want you to do is I want you to go on the website and look at it. You can click on the website, you can find out, wow, this is what Laudato Si said about this. You click on a picture, wow, this is what St. John Newman, or this is what St. Anne's doing right now. So we made it interactive. And again, we do have our hard copy, because some people just like to read the hard copy. Me, I like going on the internet. I like clicking on the hyperlinks. And again, we're going to do a call to action, because we want you to volunteer to help keep this thing current, keep it relevant, keep it updated. Okay, this is the first part of the action plan. Engage parishioners and students. Get everybody involved. Start a Care for Creation team. Put it in a newsletter. I'm encouraging the fathers, speak from the pulpit about it. Put it into your homily. The Knights of Columbus, get engaged from the youngest person to the oldest person. Again, everybody has a gift. So, we need to, like we distill the Laudato Si into an action plan, distill that gifts from your parishioners. And, go to other parishes. Number 2 is conserve energy. There are things in your house that are just taking resources out of your wallet and everything. And no, I'm not talking about your grown kids that live with you. I'm talking about like when you charge up your cell phone and your computers. If you have it plugged in and you're not charging your cell phone, that little light is on. That's using energy that you're not getting any advantage of. You're just paying for it. A lot of times it's funny because I walk in my house and I'll ask my kids, what time is it? And they look at the microwave to tell me what time it is. Well, that means there's some energy or something going on at the house that we're not really getting use of. I don't need the microwave to tell me what time it is. I got a phone and a clock. But there's a lot of things that we can do. And so people think, okay, well, I'm going to put up solar panels. Well, before you do that, do an audit. Get an energy audit. See if you're having, if you're insulated. See that, check your thermostat. Maybe get an automatic thermostat. There's a lot of things that you can do. Then once you do all that, and especially parishes, because the Department of Energy said years ago, the most energy efficient structures in America are faith-based organizations. We build these giant monuments to God, and then we have these lights. Well, the lights come on, what do? Produce heat. Well, when the heat comes on, what happens? The HVAC comes on. So now the HVAC is on, the weather's great outside, but we've got the HVAC on because of the lights. Let's get energy efficient lights. Let's get an HVAC system hooked up to a thermostat. Now we can take that money, instead of for utilities, you can use it for ministries. And you're not constantly asking people for more money, you're getting more out of the money that's being collected. Conserve water. Again, these are things, do at home, you can do it to parish, or you can do you can do almost anywhere. It'd work. These the shower heads, you can get these rain cisterns, use rainwater for agriculture. You can make sure there's no leaks. Make sure you have energy efficient dishwashers and everything else, to go forward with that. So conserving water, and this goes into sustainable land use, but also, why don't we just get landscaping that doesn't require a lot of water? And I'll repeat this again, but the biggest crop in America is the grass that we grow in the front yard. And it's nothing to eat. You can't eat it. The bees are, kind of indifferent about it. It's not really giving you anything, but it's a big crop. Maybe replace it with something else. I'd like to replace my front yard with fruit trees. And people say, what if the neighbors come and get it? Well, that's the point. That's what we want, So think about it at church. Fruit trees, growing peaches. Georgia, all I used to hear was, and how do you pronounce it? Pecan, and peaches. Put some trees out here, or some berry bushes and stuff like that, or at least something that doesn't take a lot of water, that will, make it look nice, and it doesn't take a lot of maintenance. Okay, this is purchase wisely and recycle. Well, recycling, everybody thinks, because I remember as a kid, I was talking with Father Ray, and as a kid, I used to take my bottles and everything and turn them in and get the nickels and the dimes and everything. That was a good fundraiser. Well, for some reason, that stuck in the bottom of people's mind, but recycling is not going to save you money. It's an economic activity that if you don't do it now, you're going to address it later. It's kind of like that commercial. When your light comes on in your car, you can go to the mechanic now, or you can go later when the engine's blown. That's the same thing. So it's economic activity. So, and there's a lot of, when China stopped taking a lot of our stuff, that put us in a quandary. So why not get things that are readily recyclable? Okay, maybe we don't get plastic. I remember one Lent, I gave up plastic for Lent. You know how incredibly difficult that was? You know, I'm thinking, oh, I can do this, but that was difficult. But we can change, reusable. We can, you know, maybe instead of, don't use styrofoam, use plates that you can wash and everything. Instead of, and then again, find the areas that recycle. Like at Best Buy, you can take a whole bunch of things. Take your own bags to the store. Even though they're starting to ban plastic bags, be one step ahead. Have a church fundraiser where it says St. Anne's, Care for Creation Team, and you sell the bags and people can reuse them all over again. Gives you publicity, and it allows you to, you know, get away from the single-use plastic containers. So again, think about when you purchase something, what are you going to do with it towards the end? Because when you get something, you have to manage it. I don't want to say dispose because that's doing this. You got to manage it afterwards. Okay, buy and share food thoughtfully. I'll give $10 if anybody can guess which farmer's market that is. But in the meantime, we should grow our own food. We should, and then there's an initiative called the Ugly Fruit and Vegetable Initiative. When I eat mashed potatoes, I don't care what that potato looks like before. I don't care if it's pretty, but what do the supermarkets do? They get the prettiest fruit, the best looking fruit and vegetables, and put it out, and what do they do with those ones? Throw it away, which it throws away. It's putting, you know, carbon dioxide in the air, and nobody's getting use of it. So, hey, you see an ugly piece of fruit, you go ahead and grab it. Make lemonade out of it. Again, when I drink lemonade, I don't care what the lemon looked like before I, had it squeezed and made lemonade. So the same thing with your fruits and vegetables. You can do that too. And there's a lot of stores that are opening up to do that, and the price is a lot lower. You know, because you can pay for something of beauty that you're going to cut up, slice, dice, bake, boil, whatever. Or you can get something that you just want. Me, I don't care what it looks like. It just has to taste good. That's my test. And then again, you share. You know, you grow gardens. Gardens where roses are things that you can eat. That's another thing. That gives something for the kids to do. Again, engaging your parishioners. Okay, and if you know it's an action plan, we're using verbs and adverbs instead of just something we're saying make, embrace, use. So now, smart mobility choices, transportation. It would be nice if everybody can go and get an electric vehicle, but that's not practical. But like what we did yesterday, was it 6 of us went to University of Georgia, rode together University of Georgia, carpooling together, old-fashioned carpooling. What better way to have a captive audience for a couple of hours and a half, especially when you want to do some witnessing, you know? They're not going anywhere. The Pope was going to, later on this year, the Pope Mobile is going to be electric. Fisker Ocean has made a car for the Pope, the little pop-up thing for the Pope, so he's going electric. It used to be you'd see him you'd see all these big SUVs and a little tiny Fiat, and that's the Pope. Well, now you'll be able to see him in an electric vehicle. He's basically practicing what he preaches. And then there's always MARTA. There's always the bus. If we tell our kids, hey, it's cool to ride the bus, if they get it in their mind it's cool to ride the bus, maybe not everybody wants to drive. Me, as older I get, I like these ideas of autonomous vehicles where I don't have to drive. But the main thing is we've got public transportation. When I'm telling MARTA, you need to do something with these bus stops. These things don't say, come and ride our transportation. It looks like it says stay away because there's weeds overgrowing and knocked over, and they're not very, very dirty. But that's something, again, as citizens that we can do. Okay, use land sustainably. Water-wise landscaping. Get rid of the grass or cut down on the grass and put up flowers or put up cactus. They don't take much water. And then, did you know that the state insect in Georgia is the bee? It's the honeybee. And between all the pesticides we're putting on the ground for our grass and everything, it's killing off the bee population, which will have an effect on us later on. It's kind of an indicator of how we're doing. So, make your garden friendly for bees. And then again, cut down on the grass and the landscaping. Okay, here's one. Embrace environmental justice and equity. What we wanted to do with this environmental action plan is see it through the lens of environmental justice and equity. Now, environmental quality means we all start out with the same thing. Environmental equity means we end up at the same time, at the same place with the same thing. So you see the two pictures to the left? That's equality. Everybody has the same amount. If you look to the right here, that's equity. Everybody has what they need to get, to get to their means. COVID really exposed some of the social services and some of the cracks in our system and everything, and the haves and haves not. It wasn't as simple as, there were parents who were driving to McDonald's so they would have Wi-Fi so their kids could do their homework. It just wasn't as simple. A lot of people didn't have Wi-Fi. A lot of people didn't have computers at home, but school went on. So we have to think about that. 95% of all toxic plants and facilities are located in low-income and communities of color. Like Brian said, in Louisiana, they have homes, and then right behind the homes is a refinery. That's, in the picture on the right. There's a refinery there. Low-income communities of color. And then as we have more and more people, we're getting more and more refugees and everything, not only because of war, but because of the temperatures have changed and the climate no longer allows them to exist, so they want to exist where they're at, so they're moving around. So that's a big cause of, that's an environmental justice issue. Okay, so, again, we try to do the lens of environmental justice. We just can't say, let them eat cake, or let them do this. Hey, put a tax on gasoline. Well, there's low-income people that they can barely afford the gas now. Gas out here is $3.79. In California, it's $5.79. That's not sustainable for low-income people. We've got to bring everybody up. We as a Catholic Church has to be the mighty wave that raises all the ships in the harbor, and it starts here. Science is not going to help us address these environmental and social concerns. It's our faith that's going to do it. Okay? Advocate for the earth and the vulnerable. That picture you see, it was done by a nun, and what she did, she depicted the people or the population mostly affected by some of the catastrophes that are happening in the earth, proportionally. And you see the kids, they're either embracing the earth or they're trying to hold it together because they're our future. They're the ones, we're handing this off. I'm a baby boomer. I'm that generation that brought you toxic waste landfills, plastic, global warming, and high fructose corn syrup. So now we're handing it off to the next generation. So what are we giving them? We don't own anything. We're just stewards. We're stewards of the environment. We're stewards of the gift that God gave us. We take no ownership. We take stewardship. Stewardship means, and when God said take dominion, he didn't mean dominate. He meant take care of. Take care of it. Make sure it's ready for the next generation. And then, activism. Get out there and protest. Get out there and make your voice heard. Write articles. Talk to your elected officials. See, if you're not at the table, you're going to be on the menu. So I'm saying get active. And then that tall, dark, and handsome guy right there, he has that look of, I just voted. Get out and vote. Vote your conscience. Vote that candidate that shares your values. That candidate that says, oh yeah, I want clean air, clean water, clean job, and I want jobs and everything. So vote your conscience, but get out to vote. Encourage people to vote. Fill up a van full of people and take them to vote. No excuses for not voting, because if you don't vote, you can't complain. Okay, and then lastly, adopt Laudato Si for young people. A lot of times we talk to our youth. We need to talk with. They're the ones that can identify. They're coming up in all this and they're inheriting all this. So we need to be the platform for their voices to be heard. So when you care for creation committees and you have a youth group, get the youth engaged from 5 years old to 21. We need that type of engagement from our youth. And because again, what are we leaving? What are we leaving? What is our legacy for our children? For me, again, I want the room to look better when I leave than it was when I arrived. And so there's still a lot of work, so God's not done with me yet. Anyway, the strategies for the action plan was to emphasize the moral imperative, to harness the power of the pulpit, to offer practices that can be used by churches, schools, synagogues, temples, and members of the congregation, to create a movement in all houses of worship. Again, doesn't matter if you're Hindu, Catholic, Baptist, whatever, we're breathing the air, drinking the water. We're here on this earth, we're facing the same things. Let's join. What is the common thing? Everybody has faith. Offer local resources. The church should be the resource for changing. To offer a reproducible model for other archdioceses, that's what we're doing in the Archdiocese of Atlanta. We're not holding it in. We're giving out saying, here, feel free to use as much as you want, when you want, how you want, because we want this message to go out. So Atlanta, whether we ask for it or not, is the acknowledged leader for Laudato Si. So it's a lot that we have to do. And so I just, there was something, anyway, a reproducible model for for this action plan. And then again, because it's online, we're going to keep redoing it. That's where we need you. Okay. All right. I think I'm going to hand off to Brian as far as lead and act. Thank you.
How's the fire hose treatment going? We promised to come back and meet with you again if you would like us on other topics, more information, but I want to keep going for a little while longer. The Pope encouraged us to lead and act, and I want to talk a little bit about that, including you guys. Already, just by me doing a little bit of asking, I found out some things that you've done here already. Housing the family over there in the cabin. The St. Vincent de Paul food pantry. The garden, while I know it's not large, it's a good start and maybe all you can do on the space that you have. The way the new ministry building was built with the LEDs and with the water efficient fixtures and those kind of things. You've already taken a big step in the right direction with that. Even the LED lighting here in the church. So these are all things that would have been early steps, along what the Pope was asking us to do, and here you've done a number of them. And probably many more. Didn't get too much chance to look at your landscaping and flower gardens, but it looks pretty nice to me as a start. And you're holding this event today. So you're already taking steps on this. You're already answering that letter to a degree. There are lots more things you can do, and Leonard outlined a few of them. I want to mention to you, this is what the action plan looks like. And it's about 3 to 7 pages per topic on each thing. So the energy efficiency one, I think, is 8 pages. The one about sustainable land use is 3 or 4. But it's those easy, moderate, and more difficult things, more challenging things you can do, and a lot of them apply for home or for your church. So there's more you can do. Let me show a few examples from my house. My family has a home in Sandy Springs. Fairly typical for the area, 2 stories, maybe 1/3 of an acre, I don't know. We've done about 20 things over the past 5 or 6 years related to this, and I won't go through all of them, but I just want to encourage you that none of them are hard. One I'll point out is we haven't put, even though we have lots of trees and shrubs and lots of gardens, we haven't put a single bit of yard waste to the street in 20 years. Not a branch, not a weed, not a single one. I'd be happy to share with anybody later if you're interested in learning about that. We have a great bird bath in the back. It sits there and goes fallow. My wife keeps it up and keeps it clean, and we get an amazing variety right out of our kitchen window. Our lawn covers about 40% of our property, and the rest is trees and shrubs. We typically have chipmunks, rabbits, hawks. We've had pileated woodpeckers. We're close to the river. We've had barred owls 20 feet from our garage door. And you all probably have too, had some of these things, but we like to think it's because we've sort of encouraged it and made a way to help that happen. We've also have not done solar panels, but to give you a sense of it, our house is about 4,000 square feet, and our average utility bill through the whole year is $150. And so we've done a lot of things to make that happen, but none of them very expensive. And so, again, if anyone's interested about home things, I'd be happy to share with you personally, any of those things. Let's talk about one of the churches that's leading this, St. John Newman. The creation care team leader at St. John Newman is Susan Varlamoff, who was a leader on creating the original action plan and on the rewrite. So this is her parish, so you could imagine they would be out in front doing lots of things. But as an example, they have a creation care team, about 10 people. When they did their energy audit and did the improvements beyond that, they ended up saving about $9,000 per year, every year, on their power bills. A year or so ago, when Haiti got into a lot of trouble with earthquake and all that, they took some of the savings and built 8 homes in Haiti from the savings that they had gotten from their energy savings. So they took, I think, 1 year's worth and put it toward that. They've cut their greenhouse gas emissions on the facility by over 1/3 in about 6 years. They've cut their waste, going to waste management and such, by 50% by doing a few simple things. One of them is washing dishes by hand at events that are less than 100 people. Even their Knights of Columbus group, when they do their breakfast now, no throw away anything. Real utensils, real plates, and they just have a washing crew. And it's kind of fun, actually. People enjoy it. So they've just disposed of the disposal, if you will. Lots of pollinator gardens and vegetable gardens around there. We have some help from the Georgia Extension Service, a guy named Tim Daly, who will work with any parish who wants that help, and he's happy to teach vegetable gardening classes anywhere. Holy Family, just a few miles away. Great creation care team there. The team leader is Glenn Bozio. They started off by studying Laudato Si as a group. One of the first things they did were energy and water conservation audits. They've had similar results as at St. John Newman, 15–20% reduction in their energy use by doing some of the things you've done already, but a number of other things too. They also had a major project redoing the backside of the church, which is kind of a green area, into a prayer garden. Heavily involved the Scouts, the Life Team group, even people from the neighborhood who aren't Catholic came to help. So it was a real community building thing that they pulled off there with great examples. They're considering rooftop solar. It's a bit of a struggle, and they're the first parish in the Archdiocese that's looking at this really hard with a significantly sized project. It's not an easy road, and I'm very knowledgeable of that, so if there's any thought about that here, I could coach you on maybe the pitfalls of looking at that or not looking at that or sizing it. But they are still working on that and may do something eventually. Let's just talk about the journey to where we are today. We started with Laudato Si letter 2015. 2016, this first action plan came out. We actually had a pilot project in 2017 that a gentleman named Rutherford Seidel helped to fund. He gave a little bit of money, and I was the project manager for that. We used the learnings from that pilot program and began to build a plan for how to take this across the Archdiocese. Of course, that got pretty big with having 130 or so churches and schools around the Archdiocese, and 400 buildings and 2,000 acres and how many parishioners. But we began to do some planning of how to seriously take this on. And then in 2020, we began, right as COVID started, as it turned out, this Atlanta Laudato Si initiative to begin to flesh out that plan, to begin to build the resources to go for there. So a little bit of a bumpy start, but we didn't stop there. We kept going, and even through COVID, persevered, and I'll talk about that, or Leonard will in a few minutes. Where we ended up last year, we got 2 new things, if you will, to advance this effort. One, Archbishop Hartmeyer and Bishop Konzen and Bishop Schlesinger are totally behind this. That took some time to understand where they were, but as an example of that, Archbishop Hartmeyer put out a note back in February 10th this year about supporting this new action plan. And the reality of that is what he's talking about is this plan and the initiative behind it. The other thing that happened in 2021 was this update of this plan. So we have a fresh new action plan, we have a work plan, and we have support from the top folks in the Archdiocese. So we've turned a corner now. We've been bootstrapping for 5 years, doing what we could, finding a way, grabbing every little resource we could get, and doing pretty well with that. But we have turned a corner in terms of sponsorship and commitment and visibility and those kind of things. A few notes about this 2017 project, and then I'm going to hand back to Leonard. It was 12 parishes and schools. We simply did energy and water audits with those 12. The goal was to help them increase their water and energy efficiency by 25 to 30%. Within 2 years, most of them had already hit 16, 18% on that. So very quick results, very inexpensive things to do, even retrofitting your existing buildings. It doesn't all have to be new. The other thing that helped them do that was we took these audits and turned them into little 2-page plans, simple things that they could take to the pastoral council or to the finance council or to the pastor and say, here's the 9 things we need to do. You don't have to read the whole report. Here's the 9 things we need to do. Do we agree with these? And then it became their plan. It wasn't the auditor's suggestion, it was their plan, and they moved forward with it. So Leonard's going to spend a few minutes, I know we're running a little past time, talking about this initiative that we began in 2020 and give you just some sense of the scale and scope of that and where we're hoping to take it. All right?
Am I on? Oh, yeah. The Laudato Si initiative is actually the driver. We're going to be the ones that redo the roadmap, the action plan, work with the work groups, give resources to the Care for Creation teams, and then wherever you need us, we'll be there. But it was started, Kat Doyle, who's actually, she's the head of it, of the Laudato Si initiative, she got the okay to hire one coordinator. But if you know Kat, one wasn't enough for her. She wanted both. So she brought on Brian, she brought me on, and we had to work together. Brian and I, our experiences, are very varied, a lot of commonality, a lot of differences, but the main thing is that it's seamless because we're looking at that North Star, which is Laudato Si, and as you study Laudato Si, you're going to get caught up in the North Star and ask yourself, what is my reply to Pope Francis? Anyway, the mission: build greater solidarity among North Georgia Catholics to fully hear the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. Sometimes communication is not only talking, but it's listening. Do you hear the cry of the poor? Do you hear the cry, do you hear the cry of the earth? It's talking to us, but do you hear? So sometimes we just have to, in prayer and meditation, we have to, what is God telling us? God is speaking to us through the earth. He's speaking to us through the poor. And then take urgent and impactful action to weave together social, environmental, and economic justice and sustainability in our Catholic way of life. Remember, if somebody says, what's sustainability? The elevator speech is, it's the combination of people, planet, prosperity. It's the combination where we all, we all end up at the same place where everybody has a gift, everybody's giving input. And when I first got out here and they said the Archdiocese of Atlanta, I wasn't sure how big it was. I think, Atlanta's not, we can handle that. I didn't know it was 1.2 million Catholics. I didn't know the number of diocesan and religious priests, schools, and parishes, and then just the combined space. So basically half of Georgia is the Archdiocese of Atlanta. But that's good news because, that's a lot of people. That means the harvest is plenteous, and we have the laborers if we can engage them. So I want you to engage at least 4 or 5 people, your neighbors, your fellow parishioners, and other parishioners, to get engaged with Laudato Si and your Care for Creation team and whatever you call it, to get involved. And let me see. And then these are our goals. Let me see. Our goals for it's a 7-year program. Move forward as a servant leader. Reduce our environmental impact. We want, again, urgent and impactful action. This is not something that we can put away. You can't, you can't wait. Now is the time. We're the ones that we've been looking for to get this done. Incorporate comprehensive climate action throughout the Archdiocese. Continue to advocate for social, economic, and environmental justice. Advocate, vote, write letters, engage, and create and implement a sustainable, shareable, and duplicable Laudato Si initiative. So somebody else, if San Diego wants to use it, if Missouri wants to use it, if Tampa, Florida wants to use it, it's there. We don't have a patent on it. We want to share. We want to get the word out, just like the Bible. You don't do the Bible like this, you do the Bible like this. This is what we want to do. And remember that Laudato Si action plan and our initiative is the roadmap for sustainability. Okay, these are some, I'm not going to read all these, but these are just some of the things that we want to do, tangible things, measurable things that we want to do and we want to accomplish. And this is where we need your help. Right now, it's Brian and I and Kat. but we need to engage, we've got other parishes, your parishes are doing some things, St. John Newman's, but we want to engage you. And again, call upon us, and we're just so overjoyed that you are going to study Laudato Si and find out what the Pope is talking to you and ready to reply. And feel free to use the action plan, feel free to use initiative, feel free to use Brian and I. I'm volunteering Brian and myself to come in and talk and help clarify. And we don't know everything, but together with you and Brian and Kat, we can figure this thing out. Okay, and these are some of our accomplishments. In the chance, matter of fact, this is for you, Brian, isn't it? This is mine. Okay, well, again, engage the chancery and the parishes and the schools. So we want everybody to know, but you'd be surprised how many Catholics don't know what Laudato Si is, or they know it's an encyclical letter, but they don't know what's in it. We've got to tell them what's in it. Energy and water audits. Just think about it. Just think if you could cut your energy costs by 30%, what other ministries could you fund? What if the Laudato Si initiative had money? We could give money to St. Anne's and say, okay, here's money to put solar panels up, get audits, and become energy efficient. And you save money. You take half the money, put it back into this revolving fund, take the other half and fund all your ministries without having to ask for a dollar more. Gathering, fundraising. We're doing fundraising and personal resources. Brian has this expression he uses to engage people. He says, he wants your time, your talent, and your treasure, the 3 T's. Again, everybody has something to give. A broken clock is right twice a day. Promote the Laudato Si initiative. Learn what the initiative is. I know it's in a capsule here, but you can go into the ATL /Laudato Si on the website and find out more. I'm hoping to encourage you. We don't want to put everything up here. We'd be here all night. But we want to encourage you to look at the website, look at the action plan. And then we define a 7-year strategy. This is what it's going to take to take consistent, urgent, and impactful action. And then, we have some, every once in a while we've got to stop because we're thinking we're beating our heads against a rock and nothing's happening. But some of the good news we got is the Archbishop's appeal. He decided to designate some money from his appeal for the Laudato Si initiative. So that means we do have buy-in from the top, because before Brian and I were kind of going back and forth, but we got the thumbs up, the green thumbs up from Archbishop Hartmeyer and Bishop Joel Conson, and so we're going to go for it. We're going to run with it. So every once in a while, we've got to stop and smell the roses to progress. Otherwise, it can get very, very discouraging. Okay, these are the 2017 and the 2020 cohorts. The cohorts are the groups that have participated in energy audits. And again, you get the audit done, you get a report and how you can do it now. It only works if you do the things on the audit. You just don't take it, put it on the shelf. You got to say, okay, we've got to replace and get LED lights. We're going to have to make sure we're insulated. We're going to have to make sure that our HVAC system stays tuned and up to speed and everything. So that's a roadmap in itself, but it doesn't do any good sitting on the shelf. It has to be put into action. That's why it's called an action plan. But, so this is a progress. Whenever we get discouraged, we say, okay, this is what we've covered so far. So we're going to change this thing, and we're going to do it one parish at a time. We're going to do it one LED light at a time. We're going to do it one water conservation, trash conservation, at a time. Just one bite. It's like we got to eat that elephant, and the way to eat the elephant is one bite at a time. This is our team, the Laudato Si initiative. The Laudato Si initiative team. You've got Brian on the left, you've got Kat Doyle, tall, dark, and handsome guy in the middle is me. You've got Susan Volomov, and then we have a student, Tony North. She's our intern that's working with us, and she's actually engaging the teenagers and everything into Laudato Si and find out what their opinions are. Okay.
Just as a means of wrapping up, this team is growing. Leonard flashed up the list of parishes and schools who have been involved, really from north to south, and I've been to every one of those myself. Energy audits, water audits, learning, frankly, some of the fantastic knowledge and strength and power in the pastors and priests there. Things I've learned about who's out there leading our parishes is incredible. People writing papers, aerospace engineers, 30-year IT consultants who are now pastors. So there's so much power out there among our leaders, and they don't have the time to drive these things. They've got to help, manage and executively manage the whole parish. But they often know what the right things to do are, and they need good people to step up and take these things on. And so parish by parish, I've seen that, whether it's, as an example, St. Mary's School up in Rome, or whether it's St. Matthew's Church out in Tyrone, or whether it's IHM right in town, or OLA, or St. John Newman. There's so many who are already doing so many things, and that for you guys, if you choose to start moving on this, there's lots to tap into, lots of experience, lots of people you probably know at other parishes who are involved in this already, or we can connect you with, including Holy Family, just sort of down the road. Looking ahead to 2022, we are in 2022, and again, moving forward. We had a great start to this year with the press release from the Archbishop in February. We're sharing this updated action plan all around. It's been sent to every pastor in the Archdiocese, and most principals and a few people within every school. So this has been sent out as a starting point for kind of a new beginning. We're hoping to be more available now this year than ever, that COVID is waning and we can be present in more places, and other help too. We have people from EPA, we have people from the Green Building Council, we have people from the Atlanta Regional Commission. We have lots and lots of partners that we've touched base with. COVID slowed us down, our ability to work with them has slowed it down. But we have lots of contacts within the community. Even groups like Trees Atlanta will now go beyond the city of Atlanta to help with tree plantings. In the past, they would only stay in city of Atlanta. So we've made headway with so many groups who are willing to help, and they see us collectively as the Archdiocese making some moves, and they are now coming to us and asking if they can somehow help and be involved. So it's a great time for you all to think about these things. This action plan, as Leonard mentioned, has gone national. It's been tailored, if you will, for different archdioceses. But the other really great thing about what's happening nationally is there, as an example, is a monthly phone call among leaders of Laudato Si initiatives across the country. So it's kind of a kludgy phone call with 30 people on the line, but we're sharing networking that way. It's a Zoom call, a 2-hour Zoom call. There is sharing across archdioceses. There's sharing across churches within this archdiocese and schools and churches in this archdiocese. There are parishes partnering with other parishes. There's all kinds of connections going on. There are national groups underneath the U.S. Council of Catholic Bishops, one called Catholic Climate Covenant, which is in effect the U.S. figurehead for Laudato Si things. And they have training materials and things like that beyond what we have locally. So there is help, and I want to leave that thought with you as you consider learning about Laudato Si and moving forward. Lots of people out there doing a number of amazing things, and where you decide to go, once you kind of have a direction on that, don't hesitate to ask for help from us and others, because there's plenty out there. Just as a wrap, what is this really all about? I think this picture kind of sums it up. It's not for most of us. It's really for those coming behind us, so children and grandchildren. And so listening, accepting that letter that the Pope wrote to each of us, actually reading it and studying it, what does it mean to you? And keeping these guys in mind, is where I'd like to leave it with you all tonight. Except to just say thank you very much for having us, and if we can help you at all in the future, I'm sure Stephanie and others will let us know. So that's it. Thanks.
Now, I certainly want to thank you both, Brian and Leonard, for an excellent presentation, helping us to know certainly what the Archdiocese has in mind for all the parishes in the Archdiocese, especially. And when you put up your section on what we at St. Anne's were doing, I was noticing, a lot of the stuff is like internal to the property. some of it is outreaching, but what my job is as pastor is also to be the chief affirmer. What I'd like our people to know most especially is that besides the stuff that was on the board about what we do here in terms of the property, when you talk about younger generations, especially what kind of a world do we want to leave to our children, I think we are involved in a number of things you probably know a little bit about, but we need to be able to express more clearly to the world around us. For example, in the past, I think it's close to 20 years now, we have been taking our young middle schoolers and our teenagers, or life teenagers groups, on summer mission trips. They're usually a week at a time, and they go, the younger ones go locally, especially to places where they can refresh gardens, where they can clean up areas for especially poor people who are not able to do the things themselves, light repair work, a little bit of painting, something like that. The teens go on the mission trips, and many of you know a little bit about that. They go on Catholic Heart Work Camp in the national range, and they do a lot of that same stuff, but they work in gardening, they work with sustainable gardens, and they do repair work, they build small, they do work on garages, they do work on houses, they do a lot of work with obviously supervision, they also have done it internationally by linking up with a group that we are very involved with called Unbound. I don't know if you've heard of Unbound. It's an international organization that especially deals with the poor and the indigent. We have hooked up with, we have in a sense twinned with a place called, kind of a diocesan area called Santa Ana in El Salvador. And for the last, I'm going to say, 10, 12 years anyway, in league with them, we have been sending adults down during the year, and also groups of teens, up till COVID, groups of teens down to do that same kind of work, putting in, building houses, small houses, not major things, but 2 to 3 room houses where people have only lived in hovel. Helping to install echo latrines, echo stoves, bunk beds for children, et cetera, et cetera. And they go down for a week, 10 days at a time in order to especially help. We have over 700 sponsors in the parish for this kind of a sponsorship of children for education, et cetera, that kind of thing. We have an adult mission ministry, which again goes out to a number of different places over, I don't know how many years. Jim, how many years have we involved in AMM? 9 going on 10. And again, they do similar repair, refreshment, helper work for those who are mostly indigent and poor and can't do the work themselves. We also very strongly working in the last 20 years with Habitat for Humanity, building with the Cobb County area churches, a number, I think last year was the 41st or something like that we've been able to work with them. So I want you all to know that, because I know that when we look at a lot of this stuff, we wonder how we can do it. And yet we have been involved in many ways with it over the past 20 years. It's something to be proud of, but it's also the foundation for that generation that we want to leave with an understanding that we owe the next generation down that kind of a foundation. So we hope to continue to build on that as the years go on. And this is another way to help us and to integrate the Laudato Si action plan, which hopefully we're doing something of in some of the things that I've just mentioned to you. and that we can continue to build on and do more as the time goes on. So I want to thank you for unlocking more of that for us, and offering the help so that we can continue both to assess, evaluate, and continue to ponder the more that we can do to lead our parish community, adults and the younger generations, into this common care for our common home. So thank you very much. Stephanie?
Well, I just want to welcome again and thank you all for coming, and thank you especially to Brian and to Leonard for that wonderful overview and all the work that you've done in this field. When we first started talking about this, Ellen and Lita Hines and I, we said, well, let's just give an overview of Laudato Si, and how about the action plan too? Well, that certainly was a very detailed overview, and we appreciated it. It was certainly wonderful. So it's a lot. It's like drinking out of a fire hose, like you said, and it takes time to process. So we wanted to invite you to a next step, and that next step for us as a parish is to read the encyclical Laudato Si, also called On Care for Our Common Home. So we wanted to invite you to do that. We're going to form a group starting Mondays, May 9th. It's divided into 6 chapters, and we will meet once a week to discuss that. And then after that, we will decide what we would like to do as a group or as a parish to go forward, and how we can put this into action. Like Leonard said, it's not just something that's put on the shelf and we say, oh, that's nice, and we'll move on to the next thing. So we really want to evaluate for ourselves, for our places of work, for our families, for our parish and our communities, what we can do to carry out and respond to the Pope's letter and invitation to us. So it's in the bulletin this week. You can go also on the Encounter website and sign up for that. Like I said, we're going to start Monday nights 7 to 9, and we're also selling it for $10, which is our cost in the narthex. So if you'd like to pick up a copy of that, and even if you can't come to our group where we'll be discussing it, pick up a copy and maybe give it as a gift or read it for yourself, and form your own group if you can't meet with us on Monday nights, if that doesn't work for you. So again, I want to thank you so much for coming. Did you want to say something?
Thanks for being here. We will be starting this study, as Stephanie said, on May 9th. 3 Mondays, skip Memorial Weekend, and then the next 3 Mondays. I think we're going to be able to present it on Zoom as well. Okay, so I wanted to tell you that because not everybody can make every Monday night, and many of you have people that would like to be involved in this. So, and if you can't make it on Monday nights, we prefer you to be there because it's just so fun to get together. But if you would, seriously consider doing this. It's divided very easily. Our Pope is wonderful. He knows us well. He divided it into 6 different sections. So we'll do a section each week when we meet. There is in the back, as you leave, you can buy the book for $10. And there's also papers where you can sign up, name, email, phone. I have bad eyes, write clearly. Okay.
All right, thank you. So I just wanted to close in prayer by saying the Laudato Si prayer. I thought we could all say that together. It's quite long, so in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. If you want to join me. All-powerful God, you are present in the whole universe and in the smallest of your creatures. You embrace with your tenderness all that exists. Pour out upon us the power of your love, that we may protect life and beauty. Fill us with peace, that we may live as brothers and sisters, harming no one. O God of the poor, help us to rescue the abandoned and forgotten of this earth, so precious in your eyes. Bring healing to our lives, that we may protect the world and not prey on it, that we may sow beauty, not pollution and destruction. Touch the hearts of those who look only for gain at the expense of the poor and the earth. Teach us to discover the worth of each thing, to be filled with awe and contemplation, to recognize that we are proudly united with every creature as we journey towards your infinite light. We thank you for being with us each day. Encourage us, we pray, in our struggle for justice, love, and peace. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate you coming out tonight, and we have more things for you out in the narthex. So again, thank you.